So if you play much Dead by Daylight, and especially if you mingle around the community a bit, you probably realize that people don't like the spirit that much. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, so if you're somebody that does enjoy the spirit, whether it's playing as her or going against her, this video might help you a lot to understand the point of views of the people that don't like her. As a matter of fact, I want to make it very clear that this video is not meant to change your mind if you are somebody that enjoys spirit gameplay. My intention with this video is more along the lines of just explaining the point of view of why people dislike her, so hopefully you can maybe understand where they're coming from a little bit more. So with that being said, let's begin. Now to start out, I'm going to talk about something that might seem a little bit irrelevant, but we're going to talk about PvP games in general. Now, obviously when you play video games, you have the choice between playing a game that is PvE, which is player versus environment, or a game that's PvP, which is player versus player. The obvious difference here being that in a PvP game, you're playing against other human players, whereas in a PvE game, you're playing against the environment of the game, which is mostly controlled by AI. People that choose the option to play against other human players in a PvP player setting, almost all are trying to get that feeling of outplaying another human player and actually being able to feel like you outplayed another human as opposed to just beating up one very predictable AI. At its very core, that's literally the goal of PvP games. That is the entire purpose to play them, is to get that feeling of accomplishment of outplaying another person through game knowledge, awareness, overall just skill of the video game. Obviously, there are some exceptions here, and some people play PvP games just for fun and play them casually too, but I feel like generally speaking, most people that don't have that desire to want to outplay another human player will generally just stick to PvE games. So you're probably thinking to yourself, Tofu, obviously, duh, what does any of this have to do with Dead by Daylight? So let's talk about it. Just to quickly cover how Spirit plays, basically, the Spirit has a power where when she stands still, she can channel her ability, and after about a second or two, she can move around while invisible, and she leaves behind a husk that stands still that looks exactly like an AFK Spirit. While she's invisible, she moves faster. She can't actually see the survivors, but she can see the scratch marks that they leave behind, and also any noises that they might make. Also, when she comes out of her cloak, she has a half of a second buff of movement speed. She also makes a sound that survivors can hear when they're out of her terror radius and she's using her power. Now, if they're in your terror radius and you're using her power, they don't hear anything, so they have to be more than 24 meters away to hear this vacuum sound. This vacuum sound is also non-directional, so it really doesn't give you much information as a survivor other than the fact that you know she's somewhere around you. Also, you channeling your power and going into your ability where you go invisible does not look any different from the spirit just actually standing still. So what ends up happening as a survivor when you play against a spirit is whenever you get to a pallet or a window or whatever object that you're supposed to use to help you get away from killers, the spirit player can just stand still, and then as a survivor, you have no information of what she's doing. You don't know if she's using her power. If she is using her power, you don't know where she is, where she's going, how long she's been in her power, where she's going to reappear. You get no information. And that is the main issue that people have with Spirit. That is the one core issue that makes her so unfun to play against. I want to make it clear right now that it is not her strength. It is not the power of the Spirit. As a matter of fact, I would say that most people, obviously I can't speak for everybody, but I would say most people even put Nurse above Spirit as far as power level and consider Nurse to be the stronger killer. The main difference here with Nurse is that she gives plenty of feedback to the survivor to work with. There is plenty of things that you can see when you're playing against a Nurse that can help you outplay her. For instance, you can see when she starts charging her blink, you know that she's setting up the user power. You can see how long she's been charging it, so you know how far she's going to go. And you can also see what direction she's facing, so you can get a general idea of where she's going to reappear. With all that in mind, if you're playing against a Nurse player that isn't that good or isn't that skilled, you can use these cues, you can use these visual and audio cues to help you put yourself in a good position to not get hit by the Nurse player, as in counterplay. This is clear counterplay in a PvP game. This is the reason why people play PvP games. It's a good feeling to be able to read the other player, see the mistakes that they make, and then take advantage and then outplay them. Now, if we go back to a very similar situation with the Spirit, you see that there's nothing like that. As a survivor, if you're stuck at a pallet with a spirit and she's not standing still, you don't get any of that information. She's standing still and she could be using her power, she could not. A lot of the people say that the best counterplay is just to walk away from the tile and go to another one. But if the spirit is in her power, she can very clearly just come after you and then hit you. And there's obviously little things you can do to help, such as walking instead of running so you don't leave scratch marks. You can put on perks like Iron Will that can try to help you so that she can't hear you. There are little things that you can do to help you, but realistically as a survivor, you don't know where she's going to reappear. You have no way of having any idea where she's going to reappear or if she's even using her power at all. This leaves you in such a complete scenario where you are just completely out of control, and no matter how good or skilled you are at the game, there is always a chance that she can just appear on your face and kill you, no matter how good or bad the spirit player is, and no matter how good or bad you are as a survivor. This basically takes all the skill and game knowledge and map awareness away from the gameplay and just turns the gameplay into what feels like gambling. It feels like you might as well just be flipping a coin, and every time tails pops up, the spirit hits you, and every time heads pops up, you accidentally juke her. Just to continue on this, by the way, this is only talking about regular default add-on-less spirit. When you start putting add-ons into the mix, this just increases by even more. One of the most commonly used ones that people find problematic are prayer beads. This is one that is globally hated by almost everyone in the community because it makes it so that the spirit doesn't make sound at all when she's using her phase. So a lot of people use this and then they combo it with perks that can help detect when people are on generators or totems, so that way they can teleport there without the survivor ever having any clue that they might even be coming at all. Even other add-ons, however, are still problematic. Things like the Wakizashi Saya that tremendously increases the amount of speed and timing that she has on her speed boost when coming out of her invisibility is a huge deal. This makes it so that even if she doesn't appear directly on top of your face, she still has this hyper boost of speed that she can use on top of her lunge to basically hit you from many, many, many meters out. But again, these add-ons, even if they were fixed or nerfed or completely taken out of the game, still wouldn't fix the core issues, which is the fact that she doesn't really give any feedback and doesn't really provide you with any reliable counterplay. I also didn't even get into detail about some other issues that she has, such as the fact that her power gauge fills up depending on how long she uses her power, so she can spam it with some add-ons like you can see in the video right now. As well as the fact that she, for some reason, doesn't have a vault animation right now, and when she vaults a window, she kind of just teleports from one side to the other. So there's really no way to know whether or not she's vaulting. This just adds even more ammunition to her arsenal of stuff that has no feedback, that you're not sure whether or not she's doing, and then you end up getting hit for things just because you can't really tell what's going on. Another issue that people have with her is that when you become injured against her, you are basically completely helpless. Because she can hear your moans of pain, it kind of takes away any potential chance you do have of maybe outplaying her by being unpredictable, because she can hear you at all times. Now, I know a lot of people will tell me, well, Tofu, just run Iron Will to fix this. But that argument isn't really valid, because I don't think as a survivor you should be forced to run 1 out of over 50 perks to counter 1 out of 17 killers that exist currently. That doesn't really seem that realistic, to have to bring a perk every single time just in case you get a 1 in 17 killer. And on top of that, even if you do bring Iron Will, if the spirit brings the perk Strider, it actually counters Iron Will, and then you make sound anyway. So it's not really a fair argument. Now, I want to take a minute to say that I do understand the point of view of killer players and people that enjoy the spirit, because I do understand it. She is very fun to play. It does feel very, very rewarding whenever you can trick a survivor into doing the wrong thing because they're not sure what they're doing, and it does feel rewarding to get hits and feel like you're outplaying people. I also understand that the balance of Dead by Daylight is sometimes really out of whack, in a sense where a lot of the times, even if you're a killer and you're playing the game really well, you'll sometimes lose or get borderline bullied by the survivors no matter how good or bad you play, just based off the balance of the maps as well as perks and other things, which can be very frustrating in a game where the one person is supposed to be much stronger than the 4. I think there are definitely a lot of issues on the survivor side as well. I realize I'm just talking about a killer right now, and you guys might think it's a little bit biased, because I know that a lot of killer players get frustrated by a lot of things that are in the game that survivors have. And trust me, I agree. I am also a killer player. I play a ton of killer. And I think there's a ton of things that are imbalanced in this game that need to be looked at. But I also think most of those things are pretty globally accepted, and people generally have a grasp as far as why they're unbalanced and what's going on and why killer players get upset. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, especially people that are newer to the game, might not really even understand why there's so much hatred around Spirit. And I think it's really important for the community to really try your best to understand what is frustrating for both sides. At the end of the day, Dead by Daylight is not really much of a competitive game. It's more of a casual game with some competitive aspects to it. So I think what's most important is that the game feels good and is fun to play. So that being said, if you enjoy playing Spirit, go nuts. Keep playing her. Play away. But I think it is important to acknowledge that there may be an issue there, and it may be something that the devs should possibly look into for the sake of the health of the game. I realize my opinions in this video might be a little bit frustrating for some people. I know a lot of people might get upset with me. If you guys want to have a conversation with me in the comment section, if you guys are able to construct a conversation in a calm, respectful way, which I know a lot of people on YouTube are just going to be assholes, but I know a lot of you guys are also very chill and are able to hold conversations. If you guys want, feel free to leave a comment and we can try to have a discussion in the comments. Also, please let me know if you guys would like to hear more videos like this, like about just talking about things about the game, things that are good or bad. There's definitely a lot of things on the Survivor side that I could talk about too. This is definitely not a biased kind of a channel where I'm only discussing one side. There's definitely a lot of issues I can see from the other side as well. So let me know how you guys feel about it. Make sure to give the video a like if you guys enjoyed it, because that's the best way to spread it around and get it to more people. And also sub to the channel if you guys like the content as well, because I'm going to be putting out even more of it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a good rest of your night. And I am out of here. See you later. I'm out. See ya. Take care. See ya. I'm out of here. See ya.